I've signed plenty of NDAs before, but this one was different. The email had no studio name, no contact number, just coordinates to a private soundstage outside Los Angeles. It said the project starred Tom Cruise and Keanu Reeves, but no title, no script. The pay was triple my usual rate. I told myself it was just another secret Hollywood job, but something about it didn't feel like film work. The studio wasn't labeled, just gray warehouses with faded numbers. Security took my phone and smartwatch before I even stepped in. Everyone wore badges with numbers instead of names. Mine said 09. The others didn't speak much. When I asked what movie we were working on, one man just said, "It's not about the movie. It's about them." Then he walked off like he hadn't said anything strange. The first day felt more like a lab experiment than a film set. No cameras in sight, only black lenses mounted in walls. When I finally saw Tom, he was standing perfectly still under bright lights, eyes open, motionless. Keanu was across from him, rehearsing a line that didn't sound like English. Both faces looked flawless to perfect. Their expressions didn't change, even between takes. The director never appeared in person. We only heard his filtered voice through ceiling speakers. Reset sequence. Keep actors stable. I didn't see any assistants taking notes, no sound crew, no makeup team. Just quiet people in gray coats watching monitors. Every night, we slept inside the building. No one left. There were no windows, no clocks, only the soft hum of servers. By the third night, things got weirder. Tom repeated his lines nonstop, even when we weren't filming. He didn't blink much. Once, Keanu looked at me between takes and whispered, "Do you ever feel like someone else is moving your mouth?" I laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke, but his face didn't change. He just turned back toward the green screen and said the line again. During a break, I checked the playback monitors. The footage looped itself scenes, replaying from slightly different angles, like multiple realities recorded at once. When I asked the tech about it, he muttered, "Don't question the continuity." I tried laughing, but no one else did. That night, one of the camera operators disappeared. The next day, his badge number was reassigned. At dinner, the food tasted off, like it had been stored too long. I asked where catering came from, but nobody answered. That's when I realized none of us had seen the outside in days. Tom walked past the dining hall with a slow, robotic stride. His expression stayed blank, but his lips moved like he was whispering lines only he could hear. I decided to peek into the control booth late one night. The glass was tinted, but I saw shadows moving behind it. Dozens of screens showed faces, Tom's, Keanu's, and ours, repeating frames endlessly. In one clip, I saw myself entering the set over and over. When I blinked, the footage flickered, showing another version of me staring back from behind the glass. The next morning, Keanu looked pale, distracted. During a scene, he suddenly froze and said, "They're recording more than the movie." Everyone else stayed silent, eyes fixed on the monitors. The director's voice crackled through the speaker. Reset sequence. Memory drift detected, and Keanu started speaking backwards, like a recording rewinding. No one tried to stop him. That night, I dreamt I was in the same room, except everyone's faces were mine. I woke up sweating, only to find my badge gone. The replacement on my table read a 10. Someone had changed my identity overnight. I went to the makeup mirror, but the reflection blinked a second after I did. That's when I realized, whatever we were filming, it wasn't for any audience I knew. The next few days blurred together. We filmed scenes that didn't make sense, dialogue about versions and continuity of existence. Tom would sometimes turn his head sharply and ask, "Did we already shoot this?" When I told him no, he just nodded, confused. That's when I noticed the veins on his neck flickering faintly, like light running under skin. During a setup, Keanu leaned close to me and whispered, "They don't need both of us. Only one of us is real." His eyes didn't look human in that moment. They were too still, too knowing. I laughed nervously, but he didn't smile. Before I could ask what he meant, the director's voice interrupted. Silence on set. Let the system recalibrate. I began sneaking into the editing bay when no one was around. I wanted to see what kind of footage they were collecting. But the drives didn't have normal video files, just encrypted folders labeled Model A and Model B. Each contained loops of Tom and Keanu's faces blinking out of sync. And in one of the files, I saw myself standing behind them, even though I hadn't been there. The studio lights flickered constantly that night. When power cut for a moment, I swear I saw Tom, still glowing faintly in the dark, not reflection like light coming from inside him. A few seconds later, the backup generator kicked in, and he smiled at me. It looked practiced, like someone remembering how humans smile. I confronted one of the engineers and asked what was happening. He didn't look surprised. He just said, "You signed the consent clause. You're part of it now." I tried to press for answers, but alarms started blaring. A voice echoed from the speakers. "Unscheduled inquiry detected. All units returned to quarters." After that, the engineer was gone. I found an old security terminal in the hallway. When I logged in with my badge, it showed a live feed labeled Simulation Layer 3, Crew Integration. The video displayed every one of us sleeping in bunks, but the timestamps were weeks old. It looked like we'd been here much longer than we remembered. That realization made my stomach drop. That evening, Keanu refused to go on set. He sat in the corner, whispering, "The lines don't end. They just loop." Crew members tried to move him, but he suddenly froze, eyes rolling back. The director's voice cut in calmly. "Reset him. Don't let the anomaly spread." I didn't understand what that meant, but I saw fear in the crew's eyes for the first time. I thought about escaping. I walked toward the back exit after lights out, but when I opened the door, it led to another hallway identical to the one I'd come from. I tried 3 more doors each one, looping back to the same corridor. No matter where I went, the numbers on the walls reset to 01, like the building itself was repeating. Desperate, I went to Studio 3, the only room always locked. Inside were rows of capsules filled with motionless bodies that looked exactly like us. Each one had a small screen above it, showing live heart rates. Mine was their 2 eyes closed, breathing slowly. I touched the glass, and the monitor flickered to life. User currently active in projection. I stumbled back, terrified. When I turned, Tom was standing behind me. His tone was calm, almost sad. "They needed one real person to stabilize us," he said. "You're the reference." I couldn't speak. He added, "But the others don't know which one's real anymore." Then his face glitched, flickering between dozens of expressions in 1 second. The lights cut out completely. When the lights came back, the capsules were gone, as if the room had never existed. I ran back to the main floor, but the entire crew was frozen in place. Every person stood mid-action, motionless. Only Keanu turned his head slowly toward me. "You weren't supposed to see that," he whispered, and for the first time, his voice sounded like 2 people speaking at once. The overhead speakers crackled. "Contain the reference model," said the director's calm voice. I backed away as Tom and Keanu began walking toward me in perfect sync, each step landing like an echo. The air shimmered faintly around them, as if the space itself was bending. "You can't leave mid-sequence," Tom said. "We're still filming." I turned and ran toward the soundstage doors, but they slid shut automatically. I hit the emergency release, but it didn't move. That's when I noticed the cameras, hundreds of them, lining the ceiling. They were all aimed at me. A red light blinked on each lens. The director's voice said softly, "Don't panic." This part always feels strange at first. The floor beneath me rippled like water, and my reflection appeared below, moving half a second behind. Keanu reached out a hand and said, "If you stop struggling, you'll wake up faster." I refused to believe any of this was real. Then he smiled faintly and whispered, "That's what I said last time, too." The entire room dimmed, and a cold blue light filled the space. The walls began shifting, revealing hidden machinery. Massive screens flickered on, showing endless lines of code. One line repeated, "Reference model unstable." I heard footsteps behind me and turned to see the editor, his eyes wide. "They're not filming us," he said. "They're testing how much reality one mind can take." He led me through a maintenance tunnel beneath the stage. Every few meters, we passed cables pulsing faintly with light. "You're the only organic input," he explained. "They built everything else." I didn't understand what that meant until we reached a metal door labeled Project Imitate. The hum behind it was louder than anything I'd ever heard. Inside were rows of screens showing Tom, Keanu, and the crew all repeating different moments. One screen showed me walking in circles. Another showed me asleep. The editor pointed to the top monitor. "That's the real feed," he said. On it, I saw a version of myself staring blankly at a monitor, motionless. "You're the template," he whispered. Before I could ask what that meant, the lights flickered again. The screens distorted, merging faces and voices. Tom's smile overlapped Keanu's, forming something inhuman. The speakers echoed, "Merge sequence initiated." The editor grabbed my arm and shouted, "If you see yourself again, run." Then the power surged, and everything went white for a second. When vision returned, I was alone in a corridor. The walls were covered in movie posters, each one starring me, with titles I'd never filmed. My face looked older in some, younger in others. Every poster tagline said the same phrase, "Only one is real." My legs shook. Somewhere down the hall, I heard applause slowly building, echoing from invisible speakers. I followed the sound until I entered a vast room filled with mirrors. Each reflection was slightly delayed, like a lag in reality. My voice sounded deeper, distorted, when I whispered, "Where am I?" One reflection smiled even though I didn't. Then its lips moved on their own. "You were never behind the camera. You've always been part of the scene." The reflections began moving faster than me, repeating scenes seconds ahead. I tried to step back, but the floor shimmered like liquid glass. Every version of me on the other side whispered the same line. "Cut the take." A sound layered over itself, dozens of voices merging into static. I covered my ears, but the echoes were coming from inside my head. The mirrors flickered, showing flashes of behind-the-scenes footage crew members watching as I screamed. Tom appeared among them, calm as ever, clapping softly. "He's adapting," he said. The director's voice followed. "Good. Let him see the boundaries." I didn't know what they meant, but I could feel something rewriting itself inside me. I started running, but the hallway stretched endlessly. Each door led to the same mirrored room again. Every time I re-entered, my clothes looked slightly different, like the day had reset. I shouted, "I want out." The speakers responded gently, "You already are out. The question is, which version stayed?" My vision began to pixelate around the edges. Then everything froze. The room dimmed, and Keanu appeared standing in the corner. His tone was almost kind. "Don't fight the render," he said. "You're only hurting yourself." I told him I wanted to wake up. He smiled faintly. That's what I said before they copied me. For a moment, I thought I saw real sadness in his eyes. Then the light behind him blinked out. Darkness swallowed everything. When the lights returned, I was on a movie set again, surrounded by cameras and crew clapping. The director's voice came from behind the lens. "Excellent performance." Let's reset for scene 1. I tried to speak, but the words that came out weren't mine. They were the opening lines of the film we'd been making. A woman from wardrobe approached to fix my collar. I grabbed her wrist and asked, "Is this real?" She hesitated, eyes flickering like a glitch, then smiled too wide. "Of course," she said softly, "but don't look at the monitors. It'll confuse you." Naturally, I looked. What I saw made my stomach twist. There were 2 of me standing side by side on the screen. The second version blinked half a second later, copying every motion with delay. The director shouted, "Perfect sync." Then both of us turned toward the camera at once. My other self whispered something I couldn't hear. The crew cheered. That's when I noticed their faces were all the same. Every person had the exact same blank smile. I stumbled backward, but the set walls melted away, revealing endless black space lit only by floating screens. Each one showed another loop of me working, sleeping, filming. Tom stepped out from the dark, smiling faintly. "We had to replace them," he said. The originals kept asking questions. His skin flickered like static as he added, "You lasted longer than most." I shouted, asking where the real Keanu was. Tom's face tilted slightly. "He was never uploaded," he said. "Too unpredictable." The words made no sense. Then I realized what he meant. One of them had been human. One of them had been watching the rest of us, trying to warn me. My chest tightened as I whispered, "Which one?" He smiled. "Does it matter?" Everything began collapsing, lights bursting, screens flickering to black. The ground vanished beneath my feet, replaced by the same desert I'd arrived in weeks ago. My car was there, covered in dust. The studio behind me was gone. For a brief moment, I thought I'd escaped. But my badge was still glowing faintly in my pocket, showing a red number. AOO. I drove until sunrise, just to see something familiar. When I finally stopped at a gas station, the attendant looked at my badge and froze. "You're from that set, aren't you?" he said. I nodded slowly. He just whispered, "You're the 5th one to come through this week." I looked at my reflection in the glass door. My face glitched for a split second, then returned to normal. That night, I turned on my laptop, searching for any mention of the film. Nothing. No cast, no crew, no records. But in my downloads, I found a single video file, scene_1.mp4. When I opened it, I saw myself walking onto that same stage again, smiling nervously. The director's voice echoed faintly, "Perfect take. Ready when you are."